Ta'ala send it down. Dr. Ansari will argue, this is not by accident. There are certain implications in a revelation coming down at this time rather than at another time. And so the chronological sequence, I'm afraid these are big words, but this is the word that Dr. Ansari uses. The chronological sequence of the revelation of the Quran is even more important when you want to dig deeper than a mere common sense level of understanding. That second level of understanding he calls the probe level, P-R-O-B-E. One is the common sense level for the farmer and the fisherman and the youngster, everybody. For the common sense level of understanding, you take it to your religious consciousness that Allah gave to everybody. But Dr. Ansari says that if you want to go to the probe level, P-R-O-B-E, and seek the inner meaning, the depth meaning, why has this revelation come down now and not before? He says, for that, you've got to take your rational consciousness, your theoretical consciousness. That Allah has blessed you with a capacity for reason. And for that approach, you don't go verse by verse, starting with the first verse and ending with the last verse. You don't study the Quran that way. Rather, you will study the Quran now in terms of its chronological sequence and in terms of the subjects which are being explained. Before I read to you what Dr. Ansari has said, let me very humbly add something very small to what my teacher has said. The chapter that I want you to read, those of you who are interested in studying the subject deeper, the chapter that I want you to read is Volume 1, Chapter 5, which is on page 85. It's a beautiful chapter. It's entitled The Style and Structure of the Quran. The Style and Structure of the Quran from verses from page 85 on until I think about 97 or 98. This is Volume 1. This book is available at the back. This book is on sale for $130. Whatever money we get from the sale of this book, all of it goes to the family of Dr. Ansari in Paris. So I'm afraid I can't offer any discount on this. It's not my problem. Those of you who would like to buy a copy, you don't have the money now, you can take the book, give my students there, and you can pay whenever you are in a position to pay. Those of you who cannot afford to buy the book, just give an order for the chapter to be photocopied. And when you come back next Thursday, inshallah, you can pay for the photocopy, inshallah. For all my other books, because you are students, we can give you a discount, inshallah. Now then, very humbly, I want to add something very small to what my teacher has said. He has said for the common sense understanding, the farmer, the fisherman, man walking on the road, you bring your religious consciousness to the study of the Quran that Allah has given to you, when He created you, with which you recognize that there is a God and you turn to Him with worship. He says that for the probe level, to dig deeper, to reach the depths of the Quran, at that level you must bring to bear the theoretic consciousness, the rational consciousness, reason. You have to be able to see with the light of reason to reach the depth of the Quran. My small addition is that you must see not only with the light of reason, but you must also see with the light that Allah puts in the heart. Two different kinds of light. The external light with which you see for the rational consciousness, and the internal light with which the heart sees. Now, you can study the Quran at the probe level. Now listen to what he says. This is taken from page 91. Why are we approaching the study of Sura Kehf in the way that we are? He says, the chronological sequence guides us not only in respect of the commencement and progress of the Holy Prophet's mission, but also about the future technique, concerning the reform and development of human communities and individuals on the Islamic pattern. The operational word here is the future technique. In other words, if we are to rebuild Islamic communities, rebuild a world of Islam authentically, Maulana Ansari is saying, you got to go back to the chronological sequence, not the arrangemental sequence of the Quran. And that chronological sequence will tell you when did Allah send this down and when He sent that down, and why He sent this one and why He sent that down. Now then, when was Sura Kehf sent down? And why was Sura Kehf sent down? I have only 4 minutes left. We did all of this to come to this point. The Quraysh in Mecca didn't know how to deal with this phenomenon. They had never had a prophet since the time of Ismail alayhi salam. Thousands of years had passed. They remember Ismail alayhi salam, they remember Ibrahim alayhi salam, because they still had the Kaaba, which was the center of the Arab world. They still had the Hajj, which they were performing for thousands of years, even when they were worshipping idols. They still had circumcision, male circumcision, not female circumcision, which came from Ibrahim alayhi salam. They still had the Qurbani of animals, which came from Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam. They still had i'tikaf, but their i'tikaf used to be in lonely places. Ours in the masjid. All of these were parts of the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which should be preserved. But they had never had a prophet. And then suddenly a man emerges from within their midst. They knew him since he was born. They knew his ancestors, his family, his tribe, everything. And when this man reaches the age of 40, he proclaims he is a prophet. He does more than that. He challenges them on the battleground on which they consider themselves to be strongest. And they have no way of responding. Egypt, for example, considered itself to be excellent in magic and sorcery. Egypt of the Pharaohs. We got PhDs in magic and sorcery. And then along comes a man named Moses, Musa alayhi salam, and he challenges them on the battleground on which they consider themselves most powerful. He takes his rod and he throws it on the ground and it became a snake. And so he took them on the battleground on which they consider themselves most powerful and he defeated them. And then the same thing was repeated with Nabi Isa alayhi salam, who was sent to Banu Israel. They consider themselves to be the spiritual elect of mankind. We are the elite. Heaven is reserved for us. We are the sons of God. We are the closest of all to Him. Miracles, that's our preserve. And along comes this boy, and they say, وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْهَا, he's a pastor. But this boy takes them on the battleground in which they consider themselves most powerful, and he puts them to shame. He takes mud, he shapes it in the form of birds, he blows into it, and they become living birds and they fly away. Later on life, he walks on water. He brings life to the dead. He causes the blind to see. He cures the leper. They can't do these things. So he takes them on the battleground that they consider to be their most powerful battleground, and defeats them. And then along comes an Arab from the Quraysh. These are people who are largely illiterate. They can't read and they can't write, but they have a very highly developed literary sense. They honor their poets. They have a very highly developed sense of appreciation for the beauty of words and for the literary composition that comes with poetry. And they praise their poets. They can tell who is good and who is not. And along comes a man who says that he is a prophet, who challenges, who exposes the oppression of the society, the strong oppressing the weak, who considers the worship of idols to be fraudulent, false, denounces it, and preaches the worship of one God, like Musa alayhi salam did, like Isa alayhi salam did, and who challenges them on the battleground on which they consider themselves most powerful, namely the spoken word, the literary composition. The Quran comes out of his lips, and there's nothing that Arabia has to match the Quran. Come on, all of you put together. You could even bring George Bush to help you. Produce one chapter like onto this. Come on. And they have no response. So they said, well, we've got to do something about it. How can we tell whether this man is indeed a true prophet or whether he's a fraud? Let's ask them, the rabbis. They're out there in Medina.